Hello to all those that just joined us. Very happy to have you here on this webinar to talk about the future of sales. So I am Valérie Denambel. I am Project Marketing Manager, and I'm going to today to animate this webinar, present our three speakers, and help them go from one section to the other. But the content is going to be delivered by Paola, Laurent, and Heather. I'll tell you a little more about them just afterwards. First, I'm going to tell you about Segos, the Segos Group. Segos is a full-spectrum international partner in learning and development. We operate in more than 50 countries in 3 continents, the Americas, Asia, and Asia Pacific and Europe. And in other countries, we also operate through a network of global and well-recognized local partners. We train over 250,000 people every year. And when I mean full spectrum, it means that Segos offers solutions such as off-the-shelf training, bespoke training, but we can also support you with your international training project, with operational consulting, and also with managed training services. So this webinar is part of a series that we organize across the globe. So each of the Segos countries regularly organize webinar, and this is an opportunity to share about our expertise. And the Segos expertise is quite broad, as it can cover subjects such as leadership, management, soft skills, project management, HR, training, quite a lot more, and a key subject, which is about sales expertise. And we're going to talk about that today. So to talk about this subject, we're going to have 3 speakers. And during this webinar, we'll share feedback from customers. We're going to share the voice of the customers. And we are able to do this because training so many people, we get lots of information from them. We gather lots of valuable insights, and we're very happy to share them with you today. And also, we are going to share our own experience. The Segos Group has over 300 salespeople and around 50 sales leaders on the 3 continents. And we have learned a lot from all those people and about training them. And we're going to share with you all this best practice and all our experience today. So now let's move on. I've been talking about the 3 speakers, but let me tell you a bit more about each of them. So we have Heather Bonnet. She's based in Switzerland, and she's commercial director. Heather has more than 10 years experience in sales and sales leadership. We have also Paola Lazzarini. Paola is senior consultant manager, and she has a very broad experience in sales training, and we're very lucky because she's going to share it with us today. And our last speaker is Laurent Bobby. Laurent is based in France and is project manager for bespoke training. He knows how to create impactful training programs, and he's the one who actually has been involved in training the 300 salespeople within the Segos Group. And so we're very happy to have him today, as he will be able to share his experience on that subject. So what are we going to talk about? We're going to have a webinar in 3 parts. First, we're going to start with the context. Then we're going to tell you about how data-driven leadership can help create effective and sustainable sales approach. And then we're going to tell you and share our experience and tell you how you can elevate your sales team's performance based on data. And then at the end of this meeting, you will be able to ask questions. So you can already start now. On the right-hand side of the screen, you have the chat environment. Some of you have already used it to say hello, which is great. And so don't hesitate to ask questions there. We have Marie-Hélène from Segos, who is going to manage the chat and who is going to answer your questions and to gather them also, so that at the end of the meeting, at the end of the webinar, Paola, Laurent, and Heather can respond and can reply to your questions. So don't hesitate to ask questions. Very quickly, quick information too, this webinar is being recorded and you're going to receive the replay a few hours afterwards. So you will be able to review it if necessary. And I think I said everything. So I'm going to give the mic to Paola.
Thank you so much, Valerie, and welcome to everybody, also from my part. And let's start about the context. When we speak about the sales field, it's important to start from some considerations about the context. And the first question to pose is that, what are the main critical events in the current macroeconomic landscape that can impact our businesses? There are a lot of drivers, a lot of aspects that we have to consider, starting from, for example, of the long wave of pandemic. We can speak about wars. Wars have always been fought, but lately we can say that two of them are particularly impactful on our business. I mean, the war between Ukraine and Russia, for example, and also the war between Palestine and Israel. We can speak about energy shock that affects all our planet, but also about shock rate in inflation. We can quote also the increase in the complexity of the markets, all commercial sectors. We can speak about a competition that is more and more pressing. And last but not least, we have to consider also the ever-increasing pace of change. And this factor is particularly impactful for our organizations because it can affect the success of our businesses in the future. But let's move on. And I give the stage to Heather by asking you, Heather, what are the top 3 factors that shape the landscape of sales today?
Yes, Paola, and when talking to our clients and even our teams, what they're saying is these 3 key things having a huge impact on the landscape of sales in 2024. Technology is driving such a huge amount of data, both to consumers, to customers, to clients, and to our sales team. And it's how they use it. It's a real conundrum for them in terms of what they do with that. The second thing I think is that they talk about the shifts in how people buy. There's much research that says 66% of sales now start with an online search. So everybody's changing the way they buy. And I think, based on what you said about the pandemic, that's been a huge shift for that. And then the huge difference that brings to our salespeople, they're living in a world where things are changing very quickly, as you said. And I think the consumers are more empowered. They have more choice, access to more choice. So the salesperson really has to think about how they connect with their customers and their clients. And in that context, then, Laurent, how do we focus on value?
Yeah, right. So just as you described, the first point is that we have critical factors and events that impacting the landscape of sales. Another point is, without any doubt, the necessity of and the need to focus on value. What are we talking about here? I want to describe value as, of course, the commercial value of what we're selling, which is what do we offer and what do we gain? What's the net financial gain of our sales, which is of course, net of discounts, etc. But there's another point which is rather important that maybe sometimes we do not enough consider, and this is impacting, and this is giving another point in the context of the sales in the future, and it's the cost of sales and the cost of the sales effort that is required to win over customers. So really, it's not only, we really need useful data to evaluate the productivity of sales activities, and the need to measure and understand the productivity of what we're selling is really part of this new definition of the context. So this is what I could say on that part here. Now that we're going to look at this point from your perspective again, Heather.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we really need to know what to do well. What are the high impact activities as salespeople we need to do to get the best value gains? And our clients are telling us that they are good at preparing and conducting sales meetings. We're good at finding the best value offer to the customer, and we're not so bad at market analysis. But what we also see is that we're not so good at being agile, not so good at that sales agility, and maybe not so good at adapting to the individual customer, client, or consumer. So that, again, agility to the person that is in front of us is something that I think we really need to improve on, and that's what the customers are telling us right now. So Lauren, then how do we know what to do and if we're doing it well?
Well, the point is really looking for data-driven approaches and adopting data-driven approaches. What we saw just before is the need to understand the productivity of what we're doing, having data on this productivity. So not only data on the, let's say, economic, commercial, and financial gain, but really understand what's the full spectrum of the sales and commercial activity to win over customers. And adopting data-driven approaches means that we have to enhance the productivity of the sales forces. We just mentioned that before. The productivity of sales forces is a key factor in the profitability of operations and business. Second point would be to make sure that we ensure a higher and faster leadership in this rapidly evolving business landscape. Data is here to help us take our business to a higher and faster stage. And the third point would be really to make sure that we are able to strengthen the advantages we have and reduce the gaps compared to our competitors in terms of real value of what we're bringing to the market, what we're bringing to the customers, and the real benefits for the customers and the users. So this is probably where we, in the context, have a great challenge again, which is this notion of adopting a data-driven approach. Now back to you. Yes.
Sorry, Lauren. Yeah, again, that's what our customers are telling us, that, you know, that there is a lot of data there. It's what data they need to make decisions, and how can they use that and leverage this as performance data. So that's absolutely a key thing, and I think we'll talk about that a little bit more later. The other thing they're talking about builds on what we said previously, is how they communicate and negotiate with the individual client, the individual customer, because there's not one size fits all, and understanding who it is that you're selling to is absolutely critical. And the final piece of the jigsaw they're telling us is absolutely more about market knowledge, being very aware of what's going in the market. As you mentioned there, the competitors, what consumers, customers, clients are looking for. What are their options? Where do they go to find information? So really being aware of market knowledge, being in the market as much as possible to get that insight. So Paola, maybe you can talk to us about what do we need to do in the future then?
Right, Heather. Building upon what we have just shared, we can say for sure that sales professionals, both manager and sales representatives, could shape the future of sales if they are able to explore the market in a very scrupulous and detailed way, and if they straighten their competitive advantages and they reduce the gaps in comparison with the competitors in terms of value and benefits for customers and prospects. And finally, we can say that with a data-driven approach, they can enhance their productivity, and they can measure the commercial value of their actions, of their meetings, of their commercial solutions. So we can say that the data-driven approach is a great solution for all the steps of the sales value chain. And I come back to you, Heather, by asking you, what are the 3 top sales skills so important for the future?
Yeah, and it builds on what we've said until now, really, doesn't it? Really, this being able to build a relationship with the individual clients and customers, adaptability, the sales agility, adapting to the customers, the consumers, but also the market dynamics, the new players, the players changing their offer, etc. And then finding a way to really create and innovate customer-orientated value proposition. And we'll come back to that for us in Sagos a little bit later. But it's really getting close to the market, I think, is the key thing, and building on these skills that we need for our salespeople. But there's another question for me. I mean, I'm here representing, as we talked about at the beginning there, the sales leaders across Sagos, and also many of the sales leaders that I've had the pleasure of working with over the past 15 years. And I think what we need to think about is, what do we need to do as a sales leader? And in this context of this data-driven world, how do we make sure we align, build, and execute? Maybe there's some key questions we can ask ourselves. So really, what business results are we targeting? Where are we going? And what objectives do we then need to set our people that are aligned with those business goals that we're heading? How do we find and onboard, and we'll come back to that later, the right people and help them develop into the best salespeople that they can be through feedback, through data-driven coaching, etc. And what is the team telling us that's going on out there in the market? And then the final one for now for me is really about, what are those high impact activities in each market that we're in? And how do we help our sales team execute them in the best possible way? How can we coach them? How can we adapt to each individual in each situation and build rituals around that to get the best from our sales team, for them to be the best version of themselves that they can be? And I know many of my sales team are here today, and we're working hard at this, and we'll share a little bit of that with you later.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Paola. Thank you, Laurent, for all this information, for this first insight on the context and what's happening. So now let's move on to the second part of our webinar, which is about data-driven leadership. So we're going to see how this approach can help you create a sustainable sales strategy. So I think we start with Paola. Here you are, Paola. The mic is yours.
Thank you, Valerie. Okay. Yes, Valerie, thank you. What about data-driven leadership, which is the heart of our speaking today? The point is that data-driven leadership is built starting from the consolidation of the data-driven approach. The data-driven approach is a great and optimal solution for salespeople because it allows them to achieve three important objectives. First of all, it's a great solution to stay competitive in an evolving business landscape. Secondary, the data-driven approach can encourage a good coaching, a good mentoring between sales managers and their collaborators. And finally, we can say that the data-driven approach could be an interesting fil rouge that passes through all the steps of a value sales value chain. And I think, Laurent, you have a question for me now.
Yeah, but I think this question, is a question that the 200 people that are attending this webinar today they're probably wondering. Okay, so we described the challenging context in which we're now. We are in right now, and what any sales team and people might be facing and looking for in the future. We saw that it's a great opportunity to develop our leadership, provided we're able to use data and have a data-driven approach. So the next stage, and probably not only the people attending here, but probably a lot of people wondering, okay, how do I develop my business in the future, is linked to this key question: how can we use data to influence, develop, and empower our sales team? So let us know about that.
Yeah. Right. As I said before, data-driven leadership depends on a flawless application of the data-driven approach by salespeople. So a data-driven sales team is synchronized on everything, thanks to the power of data, from big objectives to day-by-day goals. But we can also say that sales managers' accountability in this approach concerns for sure the ability of good communicating, of promoting a good execution around the team. But it's also a good practice to develop those objectives through the collaboration of the entire sales team. In this sense, we can say that a data-driven approach could be the real glue to encouraging discussions and sharing, but it's also a great solution to favorite a good orientations of salespeople towards goals and good practice. So we can say that is an holistic approach, starting from a good coaching approach to a good tool for improving our sales results. Heather, now I would like to ask you, how do we use data to become a better sales leader?
Yeah, thanks, Paula. Yeah, absolutely. You know, for me, passion provides our purpose, and the passion of salespeople is unmeasurable, I think. But data needs to drive our decisions, and I think that's been a big shift in the world of sales over the last few years. And for us as sales leaders, if we have access to data analytics for each team member on the enablers, not the results, because the results we can't measure, we can't manage. We need to know what they're doing and how they're doing it. Are they doing it in the best way? And they need to know that so that they can really adapt what they're doing to get better results. So we really need to understand what the data is telling us, what needs attention, and where we can focus our efforts to elevate that performance both at an individual and then a team level. I mean, as Valerie talked about, we have 300 sales people in Sales Swiss. We'll come back to our case study a little bit later. But if we can just make that slight improvement in all of them, makes a huge difference. So using that data to drive this situational coaching approach, absolutely key to me. So Laurent, how do we continue this success? What's new for us?
Yeah, the thing is, over the last 15 years, and I've been with this company, with Seagos, for 15 years, and I've conducted a lot of trainings in sales. I had a lot of people in the room, or now distance with distance connection. So and as an observer and a researcher in terms of sales and what's happening in the world of sales, I've heard this word driven so many times. Okay, so we're talking about data driven, but I do remember, and probably everyone around the table here wants to share and can share that and can testify, I mean, give evidence that we heard about value driven. Okay, we heard about being results driven. We heard about market driven salespeople. We know that we must be client driven, and etc. So those factors and drivers, such as technology, there is even, I mean, we can add technology driven, technology, value, results, market, data. So what's new really? Well, I'll let you know. The second point is, again, data. We have so much data. I see the people and the 300 salespeople at Seagos, they have data. We have financial data, we have commercial data, we have market data, customer data, sales data. Everything is given and it's in the CRM. But you know, what you're telling us is that fundamentally and ultimately, success in sales leadership and in being data-driven actually depends largely on all the data that we can gather and use and share with the team, linked to the skills of the salespeople in their interactions with customers and colleagues. This is what I think is new and maybe different. And at the same time, it's not exactly new and not exactly different, because in the end, the nice message behind that is that actually we want to be driven by people, the people in our teams, and we want to drive them and coach them with data, which is the data of their activity, their commercial activity. In that sense, actually, that reminds me of professional cyclists. Professional cyclists, because I think, in a way, what we're talking about in a nutshell, we're talking about reinforcing sales leadership with a data-driven sales approach. And it looks like really it's a matter of being people-driven. So we talked about client-driven, value-driven technology. Let's be people-driven in the future, and the future of sales and the data-driven approach might be driven by the data about people and with the Salesforce data. So not only the financial data, commercial data, economic data, customer data, everything, but let's also include and integrate Salesforce data in our way of being a leader, in our way to being different, in our way to be unique and leading on the market and leading the teams. So, you know, what are we talking about? On the pictures here, what it shows is that those professional cyclists, maybe doing the Tour de France or the Giro d'Italia or La Vuelta in Spain, this notion of people performance is as if we are looking at people and athletes and performers, such as in sales, we have this notion of performance, who are checking their medical and physiological data. So any cyclist, like on the screen here, would be checking their oxygen consumption, their calories burned, the hydration level, their heart rate, and they will be sharing that with their coach, not only for themselves, but sharing that with their coach to get a feedback on how their activity is, how well are they doing, are they in good shape, is it that what's the value of what they're delivering, considering how much energy they will be spending to deliver that value. So I think eventually leadership and performance in sales in the future is going to be a matter of skills complemented by behavioral data on commercial activity of the salespeople. So I think this is what we are dealing with today. And actually, this is a question of skills that Paula is going to share with us, because this is the core activity of Segos. So we know pretty well what we're talking about here.
Yes, starting from the people-driven approach that we have just explicated, Laurent, at this point, the question is, how can we boost up our leadership and our performance in sales in the future? When we explore the market, when we find new opportunities, when we close new opportunities, the combination of these three factors, organization, credibility, and relations, ensure us an effective coordination of our working. And above all, it can ensure the ability to foster meaningful connections with our customers and our prospects. So the combination of these three factors, organization, credibility, and relations, leads to successful sales outcomes, and they could be a really competitive advantage for the organization. And it's very interesting, Laurent, what you have just said, because nowadays it's important to measure our sales abilities by KPIs, but also by KBIs, key behavioral indicators, as you have just shown us. Okay, so Valerie, we've come to our third moment, our webinar.
Thank you. So in this third part, we're going to explore how to elevate your sales team's performance by leveraging data. And actually, at Segos, we faced this challenge by training, when we trained the 300 salespeople and the 50 sales leaders. And so we're going to share here the approach that was developed by Segos and all that we learned from the training and our best practices in implementing the training to elevate our own sales team's performance. And it actually worked. So Heather, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Valerie. Yes, for us in the, as we talked about this global full spectrum learning services provider environment, I think we were very lucky. And I know he's here. We were very lucky that we had a visionary leader who really understood that if we were going to be the best that we can be, we needed to have a robust sales ecosystem. And what do I mean by that? We needed to find the right people. We were growing. We're still growing. Find the right people, find a common language, a common process, some common KPIs, and as Paula said, KBIs across this global sales force. We sell very different offers in all the markets, but we needed that commonality of language and process so we could share best practices, so we could understand our overall sales effectiveness, so that we could align and build even better high impact activities, review what works, review what doesn't work, share with each other. What do we need to do more of? What do we need to do less of? How can we work smarter, not harder, and focus each individual on where they are with their objectives, with what they need to do. We adopted something called MMO. I'm not going to go into that because Paula and Laurent will explain it in detail there. way back in the origins of that. But for us in Switzerland, it gave us the data that we needed to do what we said, adopt this situational coaching approach. It really helped us have real situational coaching conversations. We focused this in MMO moments, both individual and team. It helped us adopt peer coaching. So when the sales leaders aren't around, each team member is able to peer coach because there's a common language and process. We understand how we can help each other. We were then able to create development plans for each individual so that they knew what other things they could try, what small differences they could make in their activities to get a better result in the end, and to understand what good looks like. And it really facilitated, as Valerie said, significant growth, both in terms of sales, but our ability to onboard and help people become efficient and effective more quickly. In Switzerland, when we adopted the MMO ecosystem, we saw an increase in our overall sales of 12%. Nobody's going to say no to that in this webinar today. It works. Have the proof. It absolutely does work. It really is, for me, about enablement and empowerment. We're teaching our salespeople to fish so that they can eat for life. We're not giving them fish. We're teaching them to fish. And that's really important. And when I asked my own sales team and my dear colleague Sylvia and her wonderful sales team in Italy, who I had the pleasure of being with not so long ago, what was the benefit of MMO to them? They said, I can be the best salesperson I can be because I understand now what I need to do differently. So Paola, tell us about MMO.
Yes, I think the point is that you have just said how we can be different by using this kind of model. And this is what we started with, a sales process that helps salespeople to create an ecosystem where is it possible to increase works, is it possible to close more deals and drive revenue growth. And this approach is called MMO because it identifies the three key moments of a sales value chain. In fact, the first M stands for market, the second M stands for meeting, and the third M stands for the O stands for offering. And we can say that the market phase concerns the ability of analyzing both market and competitors. And this moment is split in three phases that are the ability of setting the right priorities in our market. The second phase is that of building our credibility, our personal branding with our audiences, with our prospects, with all the stakeholders of the market. And the third phase is about the ability of interacting with the market with the best tools we have at our disposals. Then the second M stands for meetings, and this moment is split as well in three phases. The first one is the ability of preparing the best meeting ever according to our client needs, for sure. The second phase is about the ability of managing the meeting in the best way. And the third phase is about the ability of engaging our audience, leading it in choosing our best value solution. And then we are the third phase, that is the offering. And we can split this moment in three phases again. The first one is the ability of constructing the best solution for our clients or prospect. The second phase is about the ability of delivering the real value for our audience. And the third phase is about probably the best one, the most important one, the ability of closing the deal with a good negotiation that could be win-win both for us and for our counterpart. So, Laurent, if you want to add some more information about the MMO.
Right. So there's just a point here about what we just described is the fact that in order to really grow our people, make sure that we are people driven and we can use the power of performance data and sales performance data, and that this is a factor of leadership, just as it was described for Switzerland actually, and it happened not only in Switzerland, of course, but in all the affiliates we have across the world, I'd say, or the globe. On top of these abilities that we have been helping the teams to grow and to develop, we have added a quantitative model. And this quantitative model is to make sure that we could process the data and use it to make two things. One, use the activity and the sales activity and the commercial activity of our people, such as contacting the market, meeting customers, making calls, proposing or making proposals to the customers, prospective or existing customers. Okay, so making sure that they can have a forecast, a yearly forecast, a monthly forecast out of this data. That is to say, understanding that if they do that, they get that. And so this is the notion of forecast. So, and this is, I think, one of the key factor of adoption of this model and the training that we did is that we, and actually I did almost all the training session with the 300 sales teams, sales people we have across the world, out of which 50 sales managers and sales leaders. What was nice, and I think really much as a factor of the adoption, is the fact that we're talking of abilities complemented by data and understanding how my ability as a salesperson can impact my results at the end of the year. So sales forecast. And the other point, I think, that actually in terms of training and adoption and getting people to quickly adopt and use the system and the ecosystem and the model is the fact that we also developed a sales simulator. That is to say, not only can I have a sales forecast given my current values and my current data, but I can also, let's say, adjust my forecast by understanding what's going to be the impact of a change in my sales activity. And so here we defined to develop the sales forecast and the sales simulator and to complement the abilities of the 9 steps and the 3 phases of the program. We developed an algorithm that is based on 5 key behavioral indicator, KBI, if we want to ask them or call them like that, or key activity indicator. So I will let you more a little bit, in a moment, but this is very important in our case history, and in our experience to understand that it's an ecosystem. It's based on abilities, it's based on the people, and it's complemented by data, but it's not the usual data that we get. It's the commercial and the sales activity data of the people and how they can manage and use that. And it's also one of the other key factors that can be used, let's say, with the coach and shared with the coach, with a sales leader such as Heather with her team. And actually, I fondly remember Heather, when I actually trained your team and you were part of the training, and actually we could actually not only look at the program and the training, but we forecast and we simulated incremental sales. And as you just said, it's interesting figures that you achieved in Switzerland. Nice job, of course. Right. So let's just recap and summarize MMO, market meeting offering, or marketing meeting offering. In simple terms, we're talking of a different sales models. Number one, it's based on 3 basic phases, very logical, simple, and that, I think, is on another key success factor of this model. It's super simple, super chronological. It's just the story of a salesperson and the journey any salesperson would undertake whenever they want to uncover an opportunity, drive it through until the deal closing. So very simply, but making sure that we don't lose and we are effective across the board and along the path. So the 3 phases are marketing, meeting, and offering, number 1. Number 2, we use 5 key indicators, as I mentioned before, and that will be factored into an algorithm in order to have a sales forecast and a sales simulation. Those 5 indicators are 5 indicators that are just logical when we delve into the method. And the first indicator is very simply how much of your time do you spend browsing and exploring the market? What's your commercial time out of your total working time in a week? We know that every salesperson, they're doing, of course, commercial action and commercial time, but in future in current context, they also have a lot of administrative paperwork, reporting, etc. So this is the first indicator. The second indicator is that when you go on the market, when you actually explore the market, how much time does it take for you to bring back an opportunity that could be turned into an offer? The third one is, okay, you bring back offers to create, but what's the value of those offers and what's the average value? The fourth indicator is to say, okay, whenever you submit offers, and out of 100 offers, how many do you win? And this is the conversion rate. And the last and the fifth one is very interesting because it says when you win over customers and you close deals, what's the value of what you're winning versus the value of what you've been submitting? Is it aligned, or do you have like a discrepancy? You are winning a little bit less than what you are offering. So those are the 5 indicators. And then to conclude on this part here, the algorithm is the combination of those 5 factors with an equation that actually gives a very reliable forecast, or can help us or help the teams, the Swiss teams, for example, to have a simulation of their sales whenever they're going to increase, for example, their market presence, or maybe change one of the key factor indicators in their activity. Good. Results. I'll start with the first bullet point. Actually, I was the key master drive trainer for the team. So we had more than 15 training sessions, and actually accurately 19 training sessions on the MMO method and ecosystem and model last year in 2023. It's still going on in 2024 in the 14 Sego subsidiaries on 3 continents and in 4 different languages. Actually, now it's more than 4. It's we've brought up to 6 languages. So a huge participation of our sales team, and I want to thank them because some of them are here today for being part of this great shift and great initiative.
Yes, Laurent. And another interesting result is the 20% reduction in time spent in non-sales activities by Salesforce, such as, for example, back office, reporting, paperwork, administrative tasks, or also project management with clients in favor of more strictly strategic steps for sales.
Yeah, and then the final piece, and I mentioned it earlier, and a huge impact for us, I think, as we grew our sales force and our salespeople, was how we onboard people. Because now we have the blueprint. We know that if we spend a half hour extra on the market, it gives a shift in what we're going to do. So we can really help them think about the right things and do the right things better. And we've seen a shift that when we onboard people now, they're contributing to their objectives 2 to 3 months earlier, depending on the market they're in and whether it's a new market or an existing one. But it has really shifted the way that we onboard. And of course, everybody's being onboarded in the same way now across the 300 people. It's the same process. Huge gains there for us as a Sagos Group.
Can add there also the harmonization of the sales practices and the sales approaching along this approach. And I'll add again the results that you shared earlier on, Heather, impact on the revenue. You mentioned the 12% increase in Switzerland, and this is definitely a significant impact too. Thank you all for all that we have seen during this webinar. We're coming to the end of the content time. So we've talked about the context, what were the key factors that are shaping the future of sales. We've talked about data-driven leadership and how to create an effective and sustainable sales approach. And we've shared with you the Sagos experience about how to elevate sales team and performance by leveraging data. So now we're going to open the mic for open the time for questions. If you have any question, please do ask them in the chat. And so Heather, Paola, and Laurent will be able to reply to your questions. I don't know if we have already some, we have one question.
Yeah, in the meantime, maybe we could just recap what we just saw, and we can have more questions.
I forgot that part, sorry.
Yes, thank you, Valerie. Waiting for some questions, I can say that what is the best way to conclude except by illustrating the benefits of the approach? MMO actually is a truly interesting and complete solution because it generates a lot of benefits for organization, for sales manager, and for sales people. And as Laurent has just said, it's a sort of combination between people, human and people approach and that approach. As far as the organization is concerned, we can say that the MMO is a proven model. It has been realized after a lot of application and experimentations in Sego's area, in Sego's field. It is a light, an holistic and simple model. And also it gives the organization the ability of knowing how the people can improve in their sales activities. It's also a great tool for sales managers because it provides accurate KPIs. It enables easy forecasts, but at the same time, it encourages a great coaching between sales managers and collaborators, and it implements a shared language, a shared code in this complex field of sales. And finally, we can say also that through the MMO, the sales manager have the possibility of monitoring the individual and the team growth in the field of sales. Finally, as far as salespeople is concerned, we can say that MMO for them could be a really clear roadmap in how to move, in how to win in the field of sales. The MMO can give a real-time progress tracking, and it's also a tool to monitor both performance and personal development. There is a good news here. Because we are turning this kind of approach into an offer. And I give you, Heather, the stage again, because we would like to know what your point of view is about this MMO, this model.
Yeah, thanks, Paola. Yeah, it's great news to share, really, that we are launching this learning solution as part of our sales capability area. It's already available in English, actually, so if anybody's willing to investigate, please do get in touch, but it will be available in all our markets in the coming months. And I think for us, certainly in my lifetime with Segos, which is a number of years, it's the first time actually we've developed a learning solution for us and taken it to market. We usually do it the other way around. We create for market and then bring it in-house. So we've done the proof of concept. We know it works, and now you can all benefit from it too. So please connect with myself, Paola, or Laurent if you want to find out more about that. As I said, it works, so we can tell you more about that.
Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Paola. Thank you, Laurent. So as Heather says, if you have any question, please regard specifically if you want to know more about this approach, you can liaise with us. You can contact us either directly through our website here, telling us that you want to hear from us. And you can also connect with Heather, with Laurent, and with Paola using LinkedIn. So don't hesitate to do so. But in the meantime, questions, yes, we have a space here for the questions. So I let you, the three of you, reply to the questions that you can see in the chat.
I could answer the first point, which is from Carlos. Could you write the 5 KBI? Okay. So for the KBI, the 5 KBIs are, number one, we called it market presence. That is to say, for a salesperson, what is the percentage of his or her time, of a workable time in a week, for example, 5 days multiplied by 8 hours, it's 40 hours. how much of those 40 hours are effective commercial time dedicated to contacting, meeting customers? So that's the first one, market presence. The second one, and that would answer the question, is how can you reduce lead time, or lead reduction in bringing that time back opportunities, from Anne. All right. So the second KPI is what we call time to opportunity. Second is the time to opportunities. How much hours of your commercial time, of your market presence, does it take in average for you to bring back an opportunity and make an offer, send a proposal? So this is the second KPI, or activity indicator, of the salesperson. The third one is when you bring back an opportunity and you can send an offer and a proposal, what's the average amount of that? So the third one is called average value of submitted proposal. The fourth one is a very classical one. Okay, you've spent X% of your time on the market. It took you X hours to bring back an opportunity and send a proposal. These proposals is an average of X thousands of currency. Good. So the fourth indicator is, out of those, when you send 100 proposals or offers, how many do you win? This is the conversion rate. We called it win rate. And the fifth one is what we call the value matching index, VMI. And it says, okay, good. So you won proposals that you brought back from your market presence. Very good. But how much are, in average, those proposals versus what is in your pipeline? So does that match the quality of your pipeline? What may happen is that some of our salespeople, we noticed, were winning or closing smaller deals than actually they proposed, and that meant that they were offering too much discount or price reduction, or they were too soft in negotiation, for example, or they were not able to bring back home the biggest proposals in their pipeline. So those are the 5 key KPI. And for the person who's asking, how do you turn the KPI into an algorithm? It's the equation, which is the combination of those 5 KPIs. And by multiplying, dividing them, okay, according to a formula, we get a sales forecast. Again, for more information, and just because we have other questions to deal with, just contact us through our LinkedIn profile, or as Valerie said, we have several means and channels to be contacted. And then that's what I could say to those questions here.
Yeah, Laura, maybe I'll pick up the one about 20% reduction in non-sales time. I think the first answer to that is, at least we knew. Before, we didn't know that people were not spending the right amount of time on the market or doing sales activity. So once we knew it, we could work with them to reduce it, find out what was hindering them from spending time on the market, and work with them to gradually decrease that and increase the time on the market and sending out proposals. So really for us, it was knowing so that we could do something, so we could manage that.
Yeah, very good. Paola, do you want to answer the one on competitors' data? How do we consider competition in the system, in the process?
Yes, of course. Yes, it's very important to start from the point that when we analyze the market, we have to know in a better way also our competitors. So bringing data from competitors means try to know their actions on the market, try to know how they move in the website, try to know how they can act or react with the customers we can share with them, for example, and also by exploring how they move in the social network, for example. LinkedIn, it's a great tool to do some survey and some researches about how competitors are able in reaching some objectives or some results in the field of sales. So we have at our disposal a lot of instruments and tools, above all from the web and from the social network to monitor how they are moving in the contest. In our point of view, as we are consultants, it's important also to participate to some topic groups or some newsletters in order to know how the competitors are moving about the updating topics related to digital world and above all the sales. So we have to be able and to be ready to know and to explore all the situations in which our competitors are moving.
Right. We have an interesting question, which is, how did you handle vendors' reluctance to the new system from Chiara? That's a very good point. So I could do a part of the answer and then hand it over to Heather. Okay, to get the vendors, that is to say the salespeople, to adopt a new way of behaving, a new way of looking at their work and focusing on themselves, first of all, the training we've developed is really focused on people, on their case studies, on their sales situation, on their customer portfolio, and it's very interactive, full of, let's say, it's fun as well because they use the simulator to see how much they could gain if they change that, etc. So it's full of workshops and very practical hands-on workshop on their own case and their own situation. Now we're lucky because we have Heather here and she adopted and her group was part of it. And I must say the involvement and the commitment of management and sales leader is another key part here because actually this new ecosystem benefits the vendor or the salesperson as well as the coach and as well as the whole team. So maybe you can share your experience.
Sure, absolutely, Lauren. And I think as we've shared in the past, for me, it was a lot about why are we doing this? And it was, as I said before, to help people get better themselves. It's not about monitoring per se, it's about how we can improve. And I think the other thing is, why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we not want to know if we're doing the right things to get the right results? So I think it's all about, as you said, positioning. We're not doing it to them, we're doing it with them, for them. And it makes a big difference if you position it that way. And I think that also comes to the final point at the end is, how do you set the benchmark for the 5 KPIs? We adapt the KPIs and the benchmark based on the situation for each individual. It's a really situational, adaptive coaching tool. It's not one size fits all. So we look at the individual, we look at the role and the market they're in and set the KPIs and the indicators that way.
There is an interesting question, Laurent, about the AI applied to
sales. I love that.
Yeah.
Actually, since the inception of the program, we have included AI as a tool to automate and to increase the speed of certain commercial actions, so gain speed and reduce tasks that are time consuming or that can be automated or can be and using artificial intelligence as an assistant to selling more efficiently. So yes, it's for Gianfranco. We have that in the training and in the system. And yes, AI can be a real assistant in being more effective and bringing more opportunities, more deals, and bringing in more business in the end.
Yes, I would like just to add one thing, Laurent, because I would like to underline that the AI and the MMO are two different things. Because the DMMO is an holistic approach that considers not just sales KPIs, but also some tool that deals with the leadership and the ability of conducting meetings, of delivering in a good way, and also to it's also a tool to coach in a better way collaborators in a sales team. So we can say that they can work together, the AI approach with the MMO approach.
Yeah, and we have last question from Maxime. Actually, Maxime has been very active, and thank you very much for interacting with us. And the question is, do you have a benchmark about those KPIs? Yeah, it's a very good point, because actually, and you're totally right, you can achieve your goal by different ways. You can browse the market, a lot, or you can be very effective by not meeting so many customers, being very effective to bring back opportunities with few customers, etc. So there are thousands of ways to achieve a goal and actually to develop its own business. So the next question is, as you rightly asked, how do I evaluate myself, and how, as a coach or a sales leader, do I look at my team's result? The answer is that actually, as Heather is doing, when you have a team, you can say, let us define let's say, a target profile in terms of KPIs, but then let us decline this and adapt it for each of my sales individual, because not everyone is doing business the same way, although maybe they have the same products to sell and globally the same market, but they don't have the same portfolio and the same structure of customers maybe. So this is where you can do it, benchmark in the team. Now, as Seagos, we're lucky, we have different countries, different affiliates, different sales leaders, and different salespeople. So we can also say and look at some sort of internal benchmark across affiliates or structures, etc. But it's a key point to make sure that not only we look at the raw data, but also the relative data about, okay, how am I performing compared to my colleague here, and how can I share how can we share best practices?
Are we okay?
I guess so.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. So we're coming to the end of this webinar. If you have any more questions, if you want to find out more information, Marie-Hélène shared the link where you can just tell us you want to be contacted, and you can also get in touch with Heather, Paola, and Laurence through LinkedIn, and they will be they are happy to answer your questions there and to get in touch with you. Thank you very much for staying to this webinar, for participating. It was a pleasure to have you here. And thank you very much, Paola, Heather, and Laurent, for all these really valuable insights that you shared with us and all your experience, and found it really interesting. And so, yeah, so I wish you have a good day. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Goodbye.